You've experienced it before. Walking into a coffee shop, instantly judged. But what happens when you meet someone new? Your brain reacts in half a second. You're being sized up, and it's not just about looks, it's about survival instincts. Studies show that 60% of first impressions influence real-life outcomes. That is a lot of pressure. Have you considered how subconscious judgments, like noticing someone's posture or tone of voice, drive your first impressions? But what if you make a bad first impression? Research suggests that overcoming it is possible, and we'll explore how. When meeting someone new, your brain processes their face in half a second, sizing them up beyond just physical appearance, and this can be a complex process. Research shows that 92% of people form first impressions based on nonverbal cues, such as crossed arms indicating defensiveness or a firm handshake signifying confidence. But what happens when you're not even aware of these cues, like a subtle smile or averted eyes? Your brain is processing them anyway, making judgments in as little as 100 milliseconds, which is an extremely short period. You formed an opinion about someone in under a second, perhaps based on their smile or body language, before you've even had a chance to decide. Studies by psychologist Alexander Todorov show that these instantaneous judgments can influence our decisions, often with significant consequences. For instance, a Harvard study found that people who smile are perceived as more trustworthy and competent within just 1/10 of a second of meeting, a very short time frame. You might wonder, what role do our brains play in this process? The answer involves the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, which process emotions and decisions, influencing our instant judgments. But what happens when our first impressions are wrong? Fortunately, research suggests that we can reevaluate and change our perception of someone, given more information and time. The impact of first impressions can be significant, influencing our relationships and even life outcomes, as we will now examine in more detail. The answer to overcoming a bad first impression might surprise you. It involves self-awareness, active listening, and a willingness to reevaluate, as research reveals the intricacies of human perception and judgment. In social interactions, this instant judgment is an evolutionary adaptation dating back to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. This instant judgment is an evolutionary adaptation dating back to our hunter-gatherer ancestors who needed to assess threats or allies quickly. They had to make split-second decisions that could mean life or death, and this ability has been passed down through generations. But what happens when this mechanism is triggered in modern social interactions? You're not just sizing people up, you're being sized up too. In fact, studies show that people tend to form impressions of others within 100 to 500 milliseconds, a time frame that can be broken down into smaller parts. You might think you're making rational decisions, but your brain is actually relying on instinct and patterns learned from past experiences. This is why you often find yourself making judgments about people based on subtle cues, like body language or tone of voice. But what if you could override this instinct and make more informed decisions about the people you meet? Is it possible to look beyond first impressions? Research suggests that our brains are wired to respond to patterns, not individual characteristics. So, can you change the patterns that drive your impressions? Further exploration reveals that the impact of first impressions can be more far-reaching than you think, affecting not just how others see you, but also your self-perception. Your brain processes faces in 30 milliseconds before you've even decided to look, which is faster than the blink of an eye. Your brain processes faces in 30 milliseconds, before you've even decided to look. That's faster than a blink. Studies show that 55% of first impressions are based on appearance. But what about the other 45%? You use 200,000 years of evolution to make instant judgments. It's a survival mechanism. But is it always right? Research by psychologist Nalini Ambady found that first impressions can predict job performance with 33% accuracy, a significant percentage. But what happens when your first impression is wrong? Can you overcome a bad start? The 60% rule states that first impressions influence up to 60% of the variance in outcomes. That's a significant impact. You make a first impression every time you meet someone new. It's a chance to start fresh, but also a risk of being misjudged. First impressions can be influenced by things like body language, tone of voice, and even the clothes you wear. But can you really control the impression you make? While some aspects, like your appearance, are harder to change, others, like your tone of voice and body language, can be intentionally altered to make a more positive impression. You've likely experienced it, meeting someone new, but they've already made up their mind about you. But what happens when you want to change that opinion? Research shows that about 60% of our impressions are formed within the first few seconds. You might wonder, can the remaining 40% save you from a bad start? A study by psychologist Nalini Ambady found that people can accurately predict certain personality traits in under 10 seconds, a very short period of time. You might have managed to change someone's opinion of you after a bad first impression. But was it due to your efforts or something else entirely? What if the key to overcoming a bad first impression lies not in changing others' perceptions, but in understanding why they formed that impression in the first place? As you ponder the complexity of first impressions, consider this. Your next encounter could be the start of something remarkable, but only if you can overcome the instant judgment. Will you? As you go about your day, remember that these fleeting impressions can have a lasting impact on your relationships and opportunities. It's crucial to be aware of the subtle cues you're sending and receiving, and to consider the potential consequences of those instant judgments. You have the power to challenge your initial impressions and give people a second chance, but it requires a willingness to look beyond that initial half-second reaction. Can you afford to let a split-second decision define your entire perception of someone? Or will you take a closer look,